Thanks again. Welcome to the latest edition of To Costa Rica Real Talk. This is Todd Cutter, managing broker of To Costa Rica Real Estate, and really excited for this special edition of the podcast as we sit here at the 2024 third annual To Costa Rica Real Estate Collective. We're up here at the JW Marriott in Hacienda Pinilla, and sitting here with a panel of distinguished guests who happen to be friends and superstar agents from all of our offices throughout Costa Rica. And in this podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in each market and particular driving forces in each specific market. And so to dive right in, I want to start with Kelli. Kelli Ricco is working out of the Papagayo and Coco office. And in addition to maybe just a brief introduction to your marketplace and yourself, I'd love to hear the following. I'd love to hear your perspectives on what are the top two driving forces in your marketplace in regards to clients making their final decision. Can be lifestyle, accessibility, infrastructure, ROI, appreciation, whatever comes to mind. So take it away, Kelli.
So I'm Kelli Ricco, and I live in Playas del Coco, which is a town that is inside of what we call the Papagayo area. There's a few beach towns that encompass Papagayo, which would be Playa Panama, Playa Hermosa, Playas del Coco, and Ocotal. So our area has always been known for the really relaxed vibe, and also the main one is convenience. So for example, you know, when I take a client out to see different areas and their final decision is to buy in our Papagayo area, you know, they basically say to me, I want to be able to walk to my shops. I want to be able to walk to the beach. I want to be able to get on my bike and go to the grocery store. So the convenience that we have is really, it's hard to match that. I know there's a couple other towns that have that, but we kind of have everything encompassed in that small area. Banks and lawyers and everything is right there at your fingertips. And then, you know, to talk about the more relaxed style of life, we have our beaches in comparison to, you know, the surfing beaches and everything. We have, you know, people that come with their families and retirees because our beaches are very calm. We have, you know, about 10 beaches in like a 5-mile radius that you could, you know, run to or go on your bike to. And, you know, so there's different options, but all of them really kind of offer that relaxation. You can get on your paddleboard, you can go for a swim, and not have to worry about the kids and, you know, and big tides and things like that. So the vibe in general is mostly to just kind of a more relaxed vibe. Yeah,
and I've got to believe, and maybe you can touch on this briefly, when you talk about convenience, you know, just proximity to the international airport and people's ability to get in and out, how much do you think that's really affected your marketplace?
Huge. I mean, it's, you know, nowadays, I've been in Costa Rica for 15 years, and before I had to get care boxes sent over from my parents and things because we didn't have anything. But nowadays we have Walmart, we have PriceSmart, and it's funny when I'm in PriceSmart and I'm walking around and I see, you know, my kids go to a school, it's called La Paz, and there's two different ones. There's one that's over the monkey trail, over the mountain, and there's one here, and you see everybody from that area over there, you know, and you say oh, they're from that school. So people have to, you know, come over to our area to get those amenities and those facilities and to get to the airport. So it absolutely is a huge factor because, you know, people who are buying and know that they're going to be going in and out of the airport pretty frequently, you know, do you want to make that drive that could be 2 hours or 3 hours sometimes, you know, from different destinations? Whereas for us, it still can be a 20-minute, nowadays we have more people there, but, you know, 30-minute drive to the airport, which makes it a lot, easier.
Makes it easier after a 4 to 5 hour flight for a lot of people. Perfect. Thanks, Kelli, for that.
Awesome. We're going to jump over to another real magical area of Costa Rica. Everywhere Costa Rica is magical. I want to go with Jen Harter from our Santa Teresa office and ask you a couple questions about the marketplace. Specifically, you know, Santa Teresa was one of the hottest markets anywhere in the world after COVID. And so give us an update of where you are now Does your market have an abundance of inventory? And as a follow-up, what are the price points that you feel are underserved or where there's opportunities for good investment in the Santa Teresa area?
Thank you. I'm Jen Harter. I am in the Santa Teresa office. Like you said, our market was extremely active and prices got inflated, in some cases up to like 200 and 300% within a year. And since about May, June 2022, we had a big cool down, and the last 2 years it's been slowly correcting back down. We have had a lot of buyers just sitting and waiting for that correction to happen or for opportunities to pop up, as it's mostly been a cash market historically. We're now starting to offer financing for tourists, not just residents and locals, so that's a big game changer for us as well. This year, the third and fourth quarter, we saw a bit of an activation in the market and sales, and we had a few like luxury sales this year as well. We think now that the election passed, we're expecting a strong high season, which is starting now in November through April, and we'll see. And as far as opportunities for developers, what's the question? Or
Just what are the price points you're missing in the Santa Teresa area? Are there opportunities there for people, even on an individual or a macro level, to fill voids in your marketplace?
yeah, like if we had 2 and 3 bedroom homes in the 500 to 700 range, we could sell them all day. Yeah. Anything I think under $1 million, we could sell really well. Inventory has been growing a lot. We have probably 3 or 4 times the inventory we had a couple years ago.
All in the luxury market principally?
Everything like raw land and single family homes, up in luxury too, but just in general. And I think that's a big part of the correction happening, right? So,
just as one follow-up question before we wrap up, Jen, tell me a little bit about, Kelli talked about the accessibility and ease of accessibility in the International Airport for the Papagayo and Coco area. Santa Teresa is a little bit more distinct region to get to. Do you feel that's a positive or negative? How does that affect your buyers comparing maybe a Santa Teresa to another part of Guanacaste?
well, our beach town is mostly a surf town. There's a big like yoga and wellness element to it. The beaches are beautiful, but it's definitely off the beaten path, and the people that come there make the effort to get there. Now we have flights out of San Jose, about 12 to 15 in the high season a day, which is a 20-minute flight versus a 5 to 6 hour drive. So it's easier to get to than ever before, but it's definitely not as easy as a 30-minute drive from the international airport. I think there's pros and cons to that. It attracts travelers that are willing to go the extra miles, but also it's a fast-growing area, but I think it also weeds out a lot of the people that might be flocking there because it's not as convenient to get there.
Thanks so much. We're going to move to a new destination. Tom, I'm going to pass it over to you to ask the questions for another special place in Costa Rica.
Yeah, so we're going to move over to Nosara, another hot spot in Costa Rica that saw a tremendous boom during the COVID days, and it's historically been an amazing destination for Costa Rica, likewise for surfing. And we're going to move over here to Roberto, and I wanted to ask you the following. How important is health and wellness to your particular real estate market in Nosara as a whole? And then kind of the follow-up to that is, how are developments and builders evolving to better service that wellness niche in the market?
Buenas tardes. I think Nosara, it's like a playground for kids and for adults. So we have activities for the families and also for the adults. We can play tennis, soccer. There's climbing walls, a lot of yoga institutions, a lot of wellness, sauna. So I think those are important teachings that maybe the Blue Zone is transmitting to the people coming. For example, one of the leading institutions in Nosara is Blue Spirit, in which they are leaders in natural medicine, in yoga, and a lot of other new projects are taking the same line, which is very interesting in Nosara. So you basically never feel bored in Nosara. There's always something to do. You can drive your kids to a tennis class, and then you can go do a meditation class with some of the best professors in the world, pretty much. So you know, it's a mix. It's important that we see what our ancestors did on this land, and mix it up with the new ways of thinking and ways of wellness. Also, for example, my sister, she's a doctor, and she did a master degree in sports medicine, and she just opened a clinic in Nosara. So it's very interesting that people is taking very seriously sports, and that we are attracting all these young professionals into a very lively community.
Yeah, that's great insight. And I tell you, it's interesting when I watch from afar. I obviously live in San Jose in the Escazú area, and I watch from afar a destination like a Santa Teresa, like a Nosara, that were always historically, off the beaten path. Both of them were very focused around surfing. If not surfing, it was wellness, and watching the maturity or the maturation, I guess, of those marketplaces to start becoming a little bit more diverse in their offering, and not just a one-faceted destination. It's fascinating, and certainly has a lot to do with the attraction that you're seeing for a place like Nosara particularly.
Yeah, there is a lot of families that the parents, they don't even surf, for example. And they have a great time in Nosara, which back in the day was probably mostly, surfers and yogis. But now it's more diverse. I feel it's more diverse, and in pretty much all the scenarios, I feel like we have some of the best architects in the country, some of the best builders. Well, I'm talking as a very proud person living in Nosara, of course. But
No bias whatsoever there.
Yeah. But no, I think wellness and the teachings of the Chorotegas ancestors are very important to take in consideration, and that everybody comes and enjoy that.
That's great insight. Thanks, Roberto. And obviously, anybody that has questions about Nosara can reach out to Roberto, and he's a pleasure to talk with and to deal with. So look forward to it.
Yeah, as just awesome, great insight, and it's really nice to have, in all of our offices, and especially Nosara, newer office, having people that are connected to the land, connected to Costa Rican history. It's one of the things we really celebrate here, is that we have expats and ticos and everybody living together and working together. I think it kind of celebrates all the best of Costa Rica. You really represent that, so awesome. I'm going to jump to our last Guanacaste-based destination now, to the world-famous surfer and one of our top real estate agents anywhere, Mr. Andrés Murillo. Todd, you want to pass him that mic, and we'll hit him with a question about Tamarindo. So, along some of the lines we've talked about, some of the other destinations, what are the few most impactful forces driving new investment and growth in your market? Is it new infrastructure? Is it the new development you're seeing in the area? Is it the surfing? Is it health and wellness? Is it gastronomia and retirement? Talk to us a little bit about what are the major driving forces in Tamarindo you see pushing all the investment to what's really always been the darling of Guanacaste.
Yeah, thank you. Well, definitely, I'll say it's a combination of a lot of things. Tamarindo has a little bit of everything that you guys just talked about. So we have fairly easy access to an international airport, so it's about an hour away. We do have our own airport that has 3 to 4 daily flights to San Jose. That's a 45-minute flight to San Jose daily. So that makes it super easy. You just park your car there, fly to San Jose. You need to come back on the same day, so it makes it really easy. Then we have, I think it's 5 different schools your kids can go to. So it makes it really easy in different areas. There's all kinds of options of sourcing materials for construction, so that's helping a lot. So I don't know if you know this, but Santa Cruz County had the biggest construction in counties in Costa Rica from 2022 to 2023 with 100% growth in construction. So, that's all because everything is really easy now here. I source my construction materials from San Jose. They come every Thursday, and the delivery cost is really low. So that's if you want to source materials from San Jose. We also have options to source materials from here, so that makes it really easy as well.
You mentioned the schools there, Andres. Tell me a little bit, we think of Costa Rica as a vacation destination. Have you seen a big increase in families moving there, bringing their kids, raising their families there?
Yeah, definitely. There's been a tremendous amount of people just coming to move in here and raise their kids. Lots of schools with U.S. curriculum, Costa Rican curriculum. So there's options for everyone. And there's a lot of communities, for example, La Paz that Kelli mentioned. La Paz is inside a gated community called Mar Vista. They have houses and they have the school inside that same community. So that helped the development of Mar Vista itself, and all the families, they have everything really easy, and that's in Flamingo.
And then just maybe a follow-up question, because you're talking about Flamingo and these kind of neighborhoods that you guys both service. Sorry about that, Roberto. Tell me a little bit about the differences between kind of the markets you service, from Grande to Tamarindo Centro, down to Avellanas, even further bit south, and how they differ. They're all pretty close to one another on the map. They look so close. How do you help clients differentiate what the lifestyle is going to be between these different areas?
Well, what we call the Tamarindo area, probably I'll say it starts up north by Catalinas, you can say that, and I'll say it goes all the way down to Marbella. So it's a pretty long stretch. And they're very different from each other. So people who like Potrero and Flamingo, I'll say, are definitely not surfers. They're looking more for like a neighborhood, family lifestyle. There's no waves. There's more schools are there. There's two, I think two of the biggest schools in there. I'll say Tamarindo is more for, I don't know, it's way more developed now, right? So it's, if you're looking for more international cuisine and also for party, so I'll say that's the spot. I'll say that's more like Tamarindo Langosta. And then if you're looking to be more connected to the surf and a little bit less people around you, I think that's the Avellanas, Playa Negra, Junquillal, and even now Marbella area that is connecting almost to Roberto's area, which is just north of where he is, which is Ostionar, that'll be part of Roberto's area, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Andrew. Appreciate your insight on those great markets.
Yeah.
I think we're going to move on now. Todd, you're going to take the next question.
We're going to move away from the coast, which we, of course, all love. And, of course, I'm not biased, but we're going to move into the Escazú market, which is where my office is. And we're going to pass the mic over to Rachel. In the Escazú office, we're really servicing the Central Valley. And what I want to ask to Rachel is the following. How, as the growth of the Costa Rica's coastal markets, how is that affecting the number of foreign investors in the Central Valley? Historically, I used to tell people, well, everyone's investing on the coast and we're really not seeing much influx into the Central Valley of that. Tell me a little bit about how that's changed and how investment over the past few years has started to move towards the Central Valley.
Well, it's moved a lot because a lot of the last, I would say like 90% of the last closings I had were people that were coming from the coast and coming up to San Jose. And it's a variety of different reasons. Like if there were retirees and they decided that they wanted to buy at the coast, they moved to the coast, and then they realized like Uvita was way too hot for them. It was way too isolated. They like to be in the jungle and see the ocean view. But after a couple of years, they wanted a little bit more, and they wanted to be closer to healthcare. So they would sell and move up to Escazú area or Ciudad Colón. We have other people that have businesses at the beach, but after being there 10 years or so, they want to have a little bit more access to entertainment, restaurants, theater, things along those lines. So they're buying a second home. And they're a second home purchaser versus like the retirees who are like moving there permanently. Then you also have other people that are moving up from the beach that just because it gets too hot and they thought that they wanted to live that lifestyle. And then they said, after a while, they decided they wanted more access to healthcare, entertainment, restaurants, things like that. So there is a huge influx that I haven't seen in past years that I'm seeing now in these years. And I think it's because those people have been at the beach long enough, and they're coming from beaches that are not as accessible as Playa Coco and Tamarindo. They're more further like Central and South Pacific, coming up to the city because they want more access to those things.
It's interesting, when I think about the history of that luxury real estate market in the city, when I started in this business 20 years ago, we had a lot of foreigners that were living up there. A lot of people, particularly in the sports book and the gaming industry, that really elevated that luxury marketplace for a long time. And when regulations started to tighten down on that, most of those guys disappeared. And we had so many years in that Central Valley market where we had almost no influx from the foreigners unless there was a very specific business-oriented reason. And it's interesting that you've touched on it. I think 80 or 90% of our last multi-million-dollar transactions in the city are all coming for each and every one of our offices on the beach. And I always tell our sellers, when our agents go out for listing presentations in the city, one of the greatest advantages that we have to represent them is we get leads from all of you guys, and all of your offices on the coast all have clients that are now buying in the city. And I think the common thread is they're not done with Costa Rica. Whatever motivates them, whether it's weather, whether it's schools, whether it's food, culture, or just life changes, they don't want to go anywhere else. They just want to move within Costa Rica. Tell me a little bit about, your last few experiences with those $1 million plus buyers and coming into Escazú, beyond weather and things, what is it that they're finding in the Central Valley that's attracting them?
Accessibility to the airport is very close. And so they're coming mainly from like Central Pacific, so they'll come up and they're very close to being at the beach in the Central Pacific, and they're very close to flying out of the international airport. The accessibility to private schools as well is very important for some people. We don't have the accessibility of really good private schools that Guanacaste area has and caters to in the Central Pacific. They're much smaller, independent little schools, whereas if they want to really aim to go to a university in the United States, the Central Valley caters to Lincoln, Country Day, Blue Valley, St. Jude. We have a lot of premier American-style high schools with big stadiums and things that those foreigners are looking for when they want to raise their children through high school and give them that kind of American style, North American style upbringing in schooling.
That's great. That's great insight. Thanks a million, Rachel. I mean, it's one of the amazing things about Costa Rica is the diversity. I mean, if you listen to the different areas of service amongst our own company, amongst our small little country here, and the differences that buyers, future residents or investors can find in these different communities is really what makes Costa Rica so special. Thanks for that, Rachel.
Thank you.
Scott, why don't you, I'll go ahead and make the introduction here on this next one. And I think we're going to move, speaking of the Central Pacific Coast, we're going to move to María Jímenez Baquet, who is an agent out of our office in the Jacó area, so she can tell us a little about what's going on there. And my specific question for Maria is, I think all of our markets have changed a lot over the past few years, but in your particular case, I'd like to hear, what is the buyer profile? And again, this is generalization, I understand, but what does that buyer profile look like in 24 and what you think you might see in 2025? And how's that evolving? How has that changed over the past 5 to 10 years?
Hi. Well, I moved to the Central Pacific 4 years ago, and I tell everybody that the country is called Costa Rica, and there's a reason. It's the rich coast, and after growing up in the Central Valley, I appreciate more everything that offers in the coast, that we can access within minutes, that we have the sunset, the wildlife, everything in such little time, and all the nature that surrounds us. So the buyers are multicultural, definitely, not from one place, but many Costa Ricans that want to have a secondary home, and it's really close to their house in Santana, especially with the 27 being a more stable route to make it to the beach against many 15 years ago that was not available. There's also people that have retired and now move to Costa Rica permanently, but they know they need to reach medical facilities or supermarkets within 1 hour to 90 minutes. So they're not willing to go to more exotic destinations because they know the travel time and the services to the airport are longer. And I believe after this year, the 2024, that we have heard a lot of we're waiting to see what happens in November in the US. The buyers and the clients are going to be making decisions more in the present and for the future, in a sense that they will decide to have like an insurance, just in case they will have a secondary property in Costa Rica and they will start that avenue. Actually, yesterday I was walking with a client that bought a year and a half ago. She lives in New Jersey, and she told me she had told her husband yesterday morning, our house is going to the market. And someone else reached out to me on a family member and said like, I think we're moving. So what about shipping, how I start? So those were unexpected because I've had many clients that during 2024, they just hold on their decision, and I have clients coming in November, at the end, in December, and in January that have told me since June or July that they had booked their flight because their decision was going to be dependent on the election. So it's a different situation, not related to a normal decision of moving to a new country because a new adventure, or moving because they are retired, but moving because of the external circumstances that surround them.
Tell me a little bit about, one of the things that I witness as I watch the growth in your marketplace. Los Sueños has always been a premier destination for the past 20 years and a very mature resort development. Tell me a little bit about more of what you're seeing, both Los Sueños and heading further south towards the Manuel Antonio area with developments like Místico and other horizontal developments that you're seeing as the Jacó market and that Central Pacific has started to really boom.
So Jacó is a very nice town where you can live and walk to everywhere. As Kelli was saying, it's one destination that you have surfing, but you have the supermarket, the banks, the government offices there, so you can walk in that city and also have the beachfront tidal properties, which is rare in Costa Rica to have. And there's a lot of buildings being built there. The price per square meter is high right now, I believe, but it's going to be probably stable at that price. The properties that they're building currently are small, 1,000 square feet properties, probably 2-bedroom, 2-bathrooms condominiums, but it's a good way to have a beachfront property in Costa Rica. So at least 3 buildings, I believe, are on the making and pre-selling, plus 4 or 5 that have been already completed from Punta Leona to the south around Playa Hermosa. Regarding the different developments, I believe there's different needs and they offer different things. So regarding what is the best development for a client is regarding what their hobbies are. So if it's someone that's retiring, most likely they are going to prefer Nativa, which is beautiful ocean view and very quiet community, organized, stable, and they really secure and a lot of wildlife. But then if they want more of a lifestyle and have almost 20 restaurants at your fingertips, is Los Sueños. And then you have the golf and the marina and other services that surround the Los Sueños neighborhood within 1 mile. And if you're more into the future and surfing, you're going to choose Místico. Around those 3 that for me are the main, more organized, gated communities, there's other communities that work as satellite communities, and have other services and great amenities. And it will vary on HOAs as well, and square per meter for the lot or the finished product. So a lot of variety.
That's great. I mean, I think what's so unique about that Central Pacific market, again, is you're an hour and 15 minutes from San Jose, and you have all of those different options that you just mentioned, whether you're looking for the more relaxed lifestyle, if you're looking for the fishing, boating, golf lifestyle, or you're a little bit more adventurous and you want kayaking and surfing and things like that, you head a little further south. So that's fantastic. And again, if you need anything in the Jacó, Central Pacific area, you're going to be able to reach out to Maria, and she'll be able to help you. Let's pass over a mic over there to Scott, because I think the audience here is getting bored of hearing me talk.
I doubt that's possible, but we're going to move down to the Central and Southern Pacific areas where it's a little bit closer to my hometown. Why don't we go to Sara as we work our way down the coast, and then we'll finish up down in the Southern Zone with Matt. But Sara, you know, I've lived in Manuel Antonio for 28 years now. It's been my home. I think most people that are familiar with it know that it's a unique mix of an authentic local Costa Rican town and a really beautiful, one of the country's most visited national parks, a really gorgeous place in a small area. But we haven't, like a lot of these other destinations, we haven't had any real institutional development, very boutique in style, small in growth. You know, talk to us a little bit about the market in general, but specifically about, you know, we have the new marinas. The first one is in Los Sueños, so it began to attract people in where Maria is in Jacó. But in Manuel Antonio, we now have the Marina Pez Vela, which is a new project starting to go vertical and slip expansion. Talk about the impact of that first real institutional development in the Quepos, Manuel Antonio area, and how you're seeing this destination evolve.
Okay, over the years living in this area, I've been seeing it growing and growing and growing, and not only in sales and developments and all of the different buildings, schools, clinics, banks, different things. And the Marina Pez Vela is one of the biggest projects that are around for many years. And it's not only giving more value to the properties around, because before the highest prices properties are just the one closest to the national park or closest to the beach. Now we are doing reference to properties closer to the marina. So the marina is, of course, giving a great value to the places around. And people that wants to or choose to be or live closer to the marina, we have the opportunity not to sell only one property to them, because these people comes and we can sometimes sell 4 different properties. They want to buy a boat, they want to buy a slip, they want to buy a small property for their crew, and they also want to have a great luxury home for themselves. So, of course, this is providing a huge impact to our market, and to not only to the people that are coming to invest in our area, to us, our locals, because the marina is also very open to the locals. It always had programs for like just in Halloween, they just open doors for everybody, not making difference, and giving candy to everybody. And it happens always in Christmas time and Independence Day. So it gives a good impact. It's providing a lot of employees to the local people, and is giving us a great opportunity to get better prices and grow our market substantially.
Well, just as a follow-up, Sara, I want to talk about something almost every market's talked in some way, shape, or form about their accessibility. And as we move away from San Jose, we just talked to Maria about their markets being fed by its proximity to San Jose, Guanacaste, proximity to Talk a little bit about the accessibility in Quepos. It is a little bit further. I'm going to ask the same question to Matt here coming up down in the Southern Zone. Talk about the accessibility, and if you're seeing it as an obstacle with the local airport, and how that works for your client base.
No, I don't see it as a big obstacle, because we are 2.5 hours away from the main international airport in San Jose, which in regular traffic. There are some exceptions, but normally it takes 2.5 hours max. So, and also we have the local airport, just 20-minute jump flight. So, and in high season, we have like 6 or 8 flights a day. So I don't see that as a difficult to that. We have very variety of the local transportations. We have 24/7 taxi services, a lot of private transportation companies, and rental cars, which are always available. So I really don't see it as an obstacle for the distance from the main city.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Sarah. We're going to move down to our last and southernmost destination representative, Mr. Matt Hogan. Matt, you're a longtime veteran, a real trailblazer in the southern zone and ecotourism, some of the developments you've done now. We've seen a lot of growth in the southern zone, and I'm going to ask you a couple questions, but I want to start by, how is the growth of the southern zone areas like Uvita and now Ojochal? We used to think of Dominical y el Sur. We used to think about Dominical and South. And now you have almost 3 real destinations. Talk to us about the evolution of that southern zone, and if you see that still as one marketplace or as 3 or 4 individual markets.
Well, I would say that the Costa Ballena region, the Wales coast, it begins in Dominical, which has historically been kind of the bohemian surf, yoga, culture, younger crowd. Uvita in the center, which is more ecotourism in focus, with the Whale's Tail National Park receiving close to 500,000 visitors a year. It's also the commercial center for the Costa Ballena region, and then in the south, Ojochal. I'd say over time, while historically it has certainly been kind of the green frontier end of the road, I don't know, a dozen years ago when they paved the road from Quepos to Dominical, instead of a 2-hour, really rough, bumpy, multi-river crossing adventure to get to the south, it's now a 30-minute drag strip, through the palm plantation. So, that's opened up the accessibility for us from the 3 million visitors a year that go to Manuel Antonio National Park to the people that go to Marina Pezuela and Quepos. So I feel like it's become a lot closer, at least psychologically, for the buyers that were in that market. As far as it becoming one market, it has been infilling quite a bit in terms of not just construction and the amount of homes there. It's been discovered, it's booming. The market indicators that I like to show my clients are that historically it was either adventurous, people that wanted to get to the end of the road, see the wildlife, be in the greenest, wettest or hottest or whatever part of the world during certain times of the year. But now it's actually matured into coming into its renaissance, and the indicators are visible, such as lots of young families moving to our area. Historically, it's been more of a retiree crowd looking to have an infinity pool to kick their feet up and watch the sunset, and now it's a lot of international. We went from 1 international bilingual school to having 5 or 6 in a year or 2 post pandemic.
I want to touch on a couple of points you mentioned as follow-ups to you. The first is the Dominical area and further south, even with the new road, it is a little bit further. It's a 3.5-hour drive from the international airport. It's a little bit further. I know how I've kind of talked to clients, and when I travel, even I bad road, good people, or the little bit further going down the road. How's your dialogue with clients, and are people going? Do you feel like people are going to your area, or you're having to craft that message of this is what you get when you go the extra mile, when you give up a little bit convenience? Do you feel that's a draw for your destination, or something you just help people understand when they come there?
Yeah, I certainly feel it's a draw for the destination. It's a much more sparsely developed area than a lot of our other coastal areas. So I would say that, that extra drive time gets you further into nature, or gets you to less crowded beaches, or, there's something to be said about being immersed in nature. You kind of get into the Arcadian rhythm, and you don't have as much human noise or traffic noise or whatever that you might have in a more developed tourist area or an urban area. A lot of times I ask the client where they're from, and if it's Los Angeles, New York, or, I tell them that my 4-hour-a-day commute in and out of the city, I don't miss it with my 3.5-hour drive to get to Paradise.
One other follow-up question is, we talked a little bit about the heat. There's been some discussion about, that Costa Rica is a hot country at the coast, and especially as you get further south, more rain, and the heat can be intense. Hence, some of the people that are moving up to the Central Valley for that real temperate climate. Talk to me a little bit about the diversification. Uvita and that southern zone area is one of the few areas that gets really massive elevation changes in such a small geographic area. Talk to me just a little bit about the different, almost temperate climate zones you have that are all accessible from those beaches in Dominical, because it's not just the Ballena coast, it's really the Pérez Celedón area down. You're seeing a lot of growth there. So talk to us a little bit about that.
I think that topography plays a big role in accommodating a lot of the people that would otherwise say, oh, the beach is too hot or what have you. We've got the ability within 10 minutes of the beach to gain 2,000 vertical feet in a place like Escaleras. If you drive another 45 minutes into the mountains, you're at the foot of the tallest non-volcanic mountain in Central America, Mount Chiripo at 12,544 feet tall. So you can literally get into almost every of Costa Rica's 21 microclimates within an hour and a half drive from the coast. In addition to the difference of elevation and the temperature, where the road and the beach sit at the foot of the mountain, there's a pinch point where the highway squeaks between the mountain and the road. The mountain and the ocean. And what you get there are these really dramatic, jaw-dropping views where not only do you see 55 miles up and down the coast, but you can look down like this and see people surfing 2,000 feet below you. So there's something to be said about that view quality as well, and the fact that it's not as developable. You're surrounded by vertical, virgin primary forest mountains. So it's a very dramatic, backdrop for life.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Matt. Awesome insight. As we start to kind of wrap up, we've done this coastal tour with our agents. One of the things you realize, and I think anybody listening to the podcast, and one thing that I think is really amazing about this company is Costa Rica is a very small country, but Costa Rica is insanely diverse. 12 distinct biospheres, all different kinds of lifestyles. And I think one of the things that really is a differentiator for us and should be for anybody talking and listening to this podcast is if you're going to come to Costa Rica to invest, you got to shop macro to micro. You got to understand and fall in love with Costa Rica first. Then you got to understand the pros and cons of all these destinations. People that are going to be happy living where Matt lives might not be happy living where Kelli lives, and vice versa. And it's one of the really amazing things. So many people that are hearing about Costa Rica first time in the world assume, it's tiny little Costa Rica. I'll just go and buy somewhere. I heard about this spot, or heard about that spot. And one of the things that I really cherish about our relationships, about the network, is we can help people understand the pros and cons and go to where they want to be and where they need to be to have good sustainable investments. And this is really just in a half an hour, 45 minutes here, we really get an amazing cross-section of all of this diversity, all of these experts that know everything about Costa Rica and also really know the pros and the cons of their destination and how to guide clients to it. It's been really cool.
Wow. Costa Rica Real Estate 101. This has been a phenomenal podcast, and so I just want to thank all of our listeners. This has been another edition of the To Costa Rica Real Talk. Stay tuned for more episodes wherever you download and stream your podcasts, and thanks for joining us.